This is Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennick.
Josh Hennick here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN, counting down about 90 minutes from the start of Sixers Heat, arguably the most important game to date of the Sixers season. We'll get into that with Austin Krell, our Sixers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com, coming up in just a bit. Also, we will get into the disappointing, to say the least, loss by the Phillies last night as the game got delayed not once, not twice, but they finally played almost at 8 o'clock last night, and they lost anyway. We'll get into those details as well. And, of course, you guys can text in at 609-403-0973, your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. We'll get to the Sixers stuff in just a bit as, information is slowly trickling out about who's playing, who's not. We know already Tobias Harris is not playing tonight. I know that some of you out there are going to say, thank the Lord when I give you that news. But on a more serious note, yes, he is not available. He is not playing. So the lineup will again look different. And I have not seen an actual lineup for the Sixers yet, but by the way, Mo Bamba is also out for the 76ers tonight. I'm just seeing that right now. He is out due to illness. So, which again, nobody's sweating that point. But if there's no Harris in the starting lineup, I feel comfortable enough to say that if everything else is good to go, your starting lineup is probably going to be something to some construction of Maxey, Lowry, probably Oubre, Batum, and B would probably be the lineup. But again, we had not gotten official confirmation yet about the status of Embiid and Maxey. They were both questionable earlier today, but we do know no Tobias Harris, no Mo Bamba tonight. Not like anyone is really upset about those guys not playing, but we will get you all the details. Austin Krell, our Sixers insider, coming up from 97.3 ESPN.com in less than 20 minutes from now. I do want to hit on, by the way, Nick Nurse just said Embiid and Maxey will both likely play tonight, but they have to go through their warm-ups before it is officially determined. So that is the latest from the Sixers. That's what Nick Nurse has told the media just moments ago. He said Embiid and Maxey will likely play tonight, but they both have to go through warm-ups. So, there you go. That is part of the answer we were looking for. But I did want to hit on the Phillies last night because, and I'll get you guys text in just a bit at 609-403-0973. To me, last night was an example of why this team is so exasperating. It is so incredibly frustrating for us to live in a world where anyone is going to blame someone who is not the professional athlete at this point for me. And I'll argue with all of you out there who think Rob Thompson is the reason why this team has had the start they had this year. Because at some point, we got to stop blaming the manager and start blaming the players. I am sick and tired of watching a baseball team with professional players who are being paid millions of dollars who can't do their job. We built a team with the understanding that, remember what Dave Dombrowski said a couple of years ago, we will hit our way out of our problems. We built a team where we spend ridiculous amounts of money on Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos. You bring back Wheeler. You bring back Nola. The whole 9 yards, right? And what did we see last night? Bases loaded, and you couldn't get a stinking run in. Not one. I mean, the only thing more exasperating than the Phillies' offense inability to execute right now is the fact that it's raining again outside. I mean, I gotta agree with Mike Gill on this. How on earth is it still raining? Like, I feel like I missed the memo. How much it's downpouring outside our studios here at 97.3 ESPN. Again, trying to drive home last night, downpours randomly, and then stops like 5 minutes later. I really do hope it's going to clear up this weekend. All the forecasts keep saying it's going to clear up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because at some point, I need the ground to dry out. I'm basically walking through mud half the time, I feel like, but I digress. What is more frustrating? All this rain of the Phillies' inability to hit. They left 8 men on base last night, and 3 of those were with a bases loaded situation. At some point, the Phillies organization has to evaluate how they can spend all this money on all these players, and yet they are borderline useless. And I remember I yelled last night, the one player who had been playing well enough this year was Alec Bohm. And you benched him last night? Alec Bohm is the only guy this year. He's the only guy who has played almost every game and has shown you any capability of batting runners in consistently. Schwarber is just hitting bombs right now. Marsh has had a couple of lucky hits here and there. Bohm, you benched him last night. You don't think it might have been nice to have him come up with the bases loaded? And this is the problem with this team. And this is why I can't blame the manager. Because at some point, I'm giving Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Realmuto, Castellanos all this money. I brought in Whit Merrifield. And you guys aren't giving me much of anything. Merrifield, 1 for 4. Realmuto, 1 for 4. Harper, 1 for 4. Now, can't be too mad at Harper because he gave me a monster night in the game before. So at least he's giving you something recently. Trey Turner, 0 for 4. Schwarber, 1 for 3 with a walk in that home run last night. At some point, I need my guys to step up and get over whatever is going on in their heads that's ailing them. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. It is getting absolutely ridiculous that you have these professional baseball players who can't even play professional baseball. I don't understand it. Now, on the flip side of the story, yes, they did start 0-4 and 5-10 last year. So maybe this is just part of the bigger picture, right? maybe it's just part of the larger picture that you have a situation where maybe these guys are just all slow starters. Maybe all of these guys are just incapable of starting a year consistently, and that basically the month of April is an extended spring training for these guys. But this is just ridiculous. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. George Summers Point chimes and says, hey, Josh, I want to ask you, when do we officially start worrying about the Phillies' lack of hitting? I'm not panicking, but there's a reason they are having such a problem getting hits and scoring runs first week of the season. Like, your opinion on this, George Summers Point. George, I think it's two reasons. One, because I think there's some overthinking going on. I think there is obviously something going on with these guys psychologically, with their approach, with their mechanics. There's something wrong. And I'm not 100% sure what is wrong, but it's obvious that they are either in their own heads or they are just basically incapable of breaking out of this slump without somebody helping them. Their approach last night, and they mentioned this on the Phillies post-game live show, the approach last night was completely different than Tuesday. The approach on Tuesday was assertive and aggressive, and they kept fighting. The approach last night was indifference. And that's part of the problem. I think that the players, it's not that I think they're not being accountable, but I do think there's a part of watching this team that makes you wonder if they have a full grasp of what they're even doing out there sometimes. Now, like I said, they started 0-4 and 5-10 last year. So maybe there is something to the fact that this team is just a bunch of slow starters and they're incapable of getting off the hot starts. But you ask me, when do we start worrying? I think if you end the month of April with a losing record, then I start worrying. Shaner and EHC chimes in at 609-403-0973. Says, the Phillies got to get on the road, start playing for each other. So many expectations for the fans. I think they feel it, a solid road stand, and come back dressed to impress. Maybe? Question mark. Shaner says, still hopeful. Love my Phillies. Bullpen stinks. It's not Topper. That's Shaner and EHT. Couple things there. One, that's a great point by Shaner, that maybe they just need to go on the road, get away from Philadelphia, start hanging more time with each other, not going home to spend time with their loved ones, and just disconnect from everything. So, and there are some people who just need that. There are some athletes who just got to get out of the day-to-day to refocus again. Excuse me. Go to Washington, get those 3 against the Nationals, go to St. Louis, get those games, come back to Philadelphia for the Pirates, and maybe by then you'll kind of get things figured out. Bullpen stinks it's hard to know what to do with the bullpen, because you look at a game like last night. For me, at least, I don't think the bullpen lost you the game last night. To me, what lost them the game last night was the offense choking and the defense choking. There were 2 errors last night on defense. Don't forget that. To me, I think that the Phillies' defense and their hitting is more of a concern than the pitching. You know, I look at what happened last night and I say, look, 3 of the 4 runs scored last night were with Wheeler on the mound, but because those runs were due to errors, they were unearned runs, right? Marte and Soto gave up no runs. Nick Nelson basically just came in for cleanup, and that's how he gave up a run last night. So this is now 2 straight days where the bullpen has not imploded, where the bullpen has not failed you. You go back to the other game that they won this year, right? Remember, they are 2-4 this year. So that means they're doing another win on the year. You may not remember it, but it was against the Atlanta Braves on Sunday. And in that game, Ranger Suarez gave up 3 of the 4 runs very early in that game. In that game, Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strom, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, Jose Alvarado combined to allow 1 run over 4 innings. Suarez gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. So we now have 3 games, 3 of your 6 games. That's half of your games where the bullpen is not imploded. So does the bullpen stink, or are they still trying to find themselves? We'll get to more of your questions coming up on the text board. Joe and EHT, as well as anonymous texter at 609-403-0973. But coming up next, Embiid, Maxey playing tonight. Austin Krell will tell us from 97.3 ESPN.com. Our Sixers insider joins me next here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card, good for use at the Ravioli House in Wildwood for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
Seizethedeal.com.
Savings. Now that's speaking the Lowe's language. And with my Lowe's rewards, your savings just keep coming. Save money with member-only offers and earn points when you shop. More points equal more rewards just for you. Because Lowe's knows you earned it, literally. Learn more about our new loyalty program at lowes.com/MyLowe'sRewards. Program subject to terms and conditions. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. See lowes.com/terms for full details. Subject to change.
Hey Flyers fans, it's time to level up your game day ritual with the ultimate power duo, the Philadelphia Flyers and Union Forge Vodka. Picture this, the thrill of the game, roar of the crowd, and in your hand, a glass of ultra smooth, 6 times distilled Union Forge perfection. Union Forge is made right here in Philly, so whether you're cheering at the arena or creating your fan zone at home, make it epic with Union Forge Vodka, the official vodka of the Philadelphia Flyers. Cheer on the Flyers with the best tasting vodka produced right here in Philly. Grab a Union Forge bottle today.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS is raising the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes, and further rate hikes are expected. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. So if you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow, and it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. In fact, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-721-3955. 800-721-3955. 800-721-3955.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Let's clear out winter and clean up the lawn with Spring Black Friday savings at the Home Depot. Right now, get the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for just $89 and make your lawn work easier with a powerful 90 miles an hour of clearing power. Plus, you could buy it online and pick it up in store, getting you outside sooner. Get your yard spring ready with the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower, now just $89 during Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. See store at homedepot.com/delivery for details.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. As you know, we talk a lot about player performance on this show. But you know what else performs really well? The 2024 Acura Integra. And now through April 30th, my friend Rocco at Key Acura of Atlantic City can get you into one for $379 a month with just $29.95 down. That includes tax tags, dock fees, everything. Go see Rocco at Key Acura, Chilton Road, EHT, the small but friendly dealer with convenient Saturday service hours. Visit KeyAcuraOfAtlanticCity.com. See dealer for details.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We can check back at the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank Seattle City. But right now, joining us to talk about the Sixers, it looks like Embiid and Maxey will reunite tonight, but no Harris and no Mo Bamba. We do know that for sure. Austin Krell, our Sixers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com, joins us now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Austin, welcome in. How you doing today?
Not bad, Josh. Thanks as always for having me.
So from your perspective, is it fair to read into what Nick Nurse said that it seems, because he said they're likely to play, and it comes down to the warm-up, right? Put the quotation marks out there. But so to you, is that a coy way of saying they're probably going to play, basically?
I would say that when they are warming up and going through their pregame rituals to determine availability, it is a pretty safe estimate that they will almost certainly play.
Gotcha. So for you, how big is it to get those two guys back on the court tonight? Because let's be realistic, if Maxey would have played on Tuesday, maybe that game does play out differently. We would never know for sure, but I have to assume there has to be a part of the Sixers that realizes that, let's be realistic, Embiid is never going to win a championship on his own. And like Embiid, you don't want to bring Maxey back too quickly from anything either.
Yeah, I don't think his injury was too serious. I think they played the kid 40 minutes, something like that, 4 games in a row. He's played quite a bit in Joel's absence, taking some hits, a lot of workload. So, I don't know how serious the injury was or was not, but I would suspect that he will be fine. I think the sooner they can get him on the court and get him and Joel back to where they were, the better, not just for the team product, but for Joel's conditioning. Because what do we know about Maxey? He wants to run. And the more that he can get Joel up the court quicker, get his legs moving, the quicker you're going to inevitably get him back and closer to game shape. I also think that sometimes it's just easier for their offense when they can force a miss, or Joel can, deter a guy inside, you get the rebound, and then one pass ahead is Tyrese, then it's out to the races, and it's an easy 2 points on the other end. So it's important on a variety of fronts, whether that be Joel getting reacclimated, whether that be just a chance to get in transition more and get easy baskets that way. It matters obviously on a variety of levels.
When you think about now the second game for the aforementioned Joel Embiid, what is a realistic expectation for him tonight? Because a lot of people thought he would play less minutes than he did on Tuesday, but he played almost 30 minutes. He went out there and he was exhausted. We all saw him lay on the ground, heaving, trying to get breath into his lungs, right? So what is a realistic expectation for him in game number 2?
So I think it's important to know that just because he's bent over and is wheezing and is out of breath does not mean he's not in shape. I know everyone likes to say Joel's not in shape. He's never been in shape. It doesn't mean he's not, he hasn't taken care of his body. It just means that he hasn't played NBA basketball in a while. And as the adage says, and it's completely true, the only way to get into game shape is to play games. And so, as he says, he lost, the word is that he lost weight. That was what Nick Nurse said. Joel kind of joked that he gained weight, but he later, I think the truth is that he lost weight.
Right.
He looked physically good in that first game back. It was just that you're trying to get your lungs and your wind back in you after having such a long layoff. my sense is that they want to get him ramped up, not just in terms of like his ability on the floor, but the minutes he's playing, because that's going to be reality come playoff time. Is if he's fully healthy and he's fully at capacity, they're going to be asking him to play 36 to 38 to 40 minutes in the playoffs every single night. So, they don't have a lot of time left. If there was more time to go, maybe there would be a little bit more of a window for them to gradually raise his minutes. But right now, it's once he's back, they're trying to simulate a real environment, and that's going to mean him playing his real minute load as quickly as possible.
You mentioned about the fact of Embiid having lost weight. Were you surprised by that? Were you impressed by that? What was Austin Krell, Sixer Insider for 97.3 ESPN.com? What was your takeaway from that situation? Like, were you like, hey, that's cool? Were you expecting that? Like, give the audience a little insight into that.
Well, I think like weight loss, and I'm not someone who is an expert on weight loss or that whole science, but I think first of all, you got to start with diet. You when you are dealing with a knee injury and you're ostensibly off your feet for a period of time, and you're that size, and then you're a pro athlete, and you have scientists telling you like this is the amount of intake you should have per day. You also have to balance that with I can't get my exercise in to sort of neutralize the intake, and so that way I'm not gaining weight. So you have to then manage what you are doing with your body, not just in terms of the exercise, but also in terms of what you're eating and ingesting on a day-to-day basis. So that's a challenge in its own right for anybody. The willpower to not eat the things that you want to eat. I think he's been able to do some exercise related things for a couple of weeks now. I know Katie George said back when they played in Dallas, many Sundays ago that he was able to lift weights the same way he was before the injury. So I think that was about like 4 weeks ago. So I think he's been able to get back on the court. And if there was a worry about conditioning or weight gain or what have you, to at least work on that and shed some of that, if that was indeed a problem. But, I do think it's like a very, when you have a lower body injury and you're an athlete, one of the biggest battles is, in addition to your recovery and getting that body right, is how do I make it so that way I'm not fighting myself and like shedding what I've gained since when I get back.
Interesting. Now, I will say that as someone who is NASM certified in the psychology of weight loss, and I have about 2 other NASM certifications, I'll kind of combine what you said with my knowledge here, which is, for those who don't know, NASM stands for National Academy of Sports Medicine. So
I overstepped my boundary here. I'm in trouble.
No, you're fine. You brought up a good point about you're not wanting to overdo anything to offset what you already did, because Joel talked about how he was depressed after the injury, and he talked about how he was trying to do anything to get his mind off of taking his son to and from school, getting in for workouts. So I think part of the reason why he lost the weight was actually as much psychological as it was physical, because he said, I got to be productive with my time. I can't just lay on the couch and watch TV, or I'm going to be depressed. So you could argue that the injury and the recovery actually helped his long-term health, because it put him in a better routine and mindset to be a better athlete.
At the end of the day, like, he's a human being, and some people, when they are going through those mental challenges, they eat more and exercise less. They eat less, exercise more to overcome that. I don't know. I'm not privy to Joel's mind in that regard. All I know is that whatever he did, his body looks to be in, fairly decent shape for somebody who hasn't played basketball in 8 weeks. And the conditioning is not about losing the weight. It's, from what I can tell, it's about training his lungs and his stamina to meet the demands of his job.
The other side of it with Joel Embiid is getting used to these new teammates. And it was obvious, at least for me watching on Tuesday night, that, and if it's obvious for me, it's got to be obvious for people who are, basketball savants, right? There were times that he just looked like he was a little out of place on the court. It looked like his teammates weren't sure exactly how to operate around him. And there were a couple times, when we were watching on Tuesday night, I kept saying it's the Iverson effect here. He has the ball and everyone's standing still. Nobody knows what to do. So how much of what's going on moving forward is not just Joel Embiid, but how can his teammates do a better job at learning how to play with him again?
Yeah, it's funny. Like a couple weeks ago, I made it a point to ask a couple different players, Campaign, Buddy, and Kyle, that like you've been here for over a month now, and you haven't played with the most important player on the team yet. Like, what is that like for you? And the response was largely like, you figure it out as you go. When he gets back, you don't try to plan ahead because these things are going to happen organically. Other responses were, like I had to learn all these new plays. You can read the story. I wrote about it at 973ESPN.com. But I think the first night back was a lot of trying to get the guy back in the rhythm, get Joel back in the rhythm, not only because it's for the best in the long haul, it's the best investment in the team's short-term success, but also it's like the guy is by far the best player on the court. And if you're going to win games, you have to get that guy back to what he's used to and get him comfortable and in rhythm. And so I think you saw like moments where Kyle Lowry maybe was a little bit hesitant to attack and call his own number. And he was leaving. And of course, with Kyle, he's so smart as a point guard that he can kind of mask those moments of hesitation by just making quick thread passes to Joel. And he's already at his spot anyway. So it's like an easy 2 points and it kind of smoothens over any kind of clunkiness. With Buddy, you could tell he was pressing a little bit. He was attacking closeouts, trying to put the ball on the floor. And Joel was kind of like saying, like, Joel's always been wanting to say, like, shoot quickly. Like, when I pass to you, shoot quickly. Don't think about it, just go. And Tobias, who has played with Joel the longest of anybody on the team, was actually someone who embodied that mindset. He was letting it fly quite quickly. And so you saw the benefit of having Joel back there early, but like, it's going to be a little bit of a learning process, but I generally think like the pieces that they have here are going to fit really well with Joel, and it's going to become pretty intuitive pretty quickly for this group. As I said on your show before, I don't think any of it has to do with the pieces fitting or the quality of the personnel around Joel. I think this is about, does he trust the knee, and will he allow himself to play freely without worrying about the knee? And then also, how quickly can he get back in shape, and can he get back in shape in time? Because if he can, it changes the entire ballgame in the Eastern Conference.
Austin Krell, as you mentioned, writes for 97.3 ESPN.com, our Sixers insider at NBA Krell on the Twitter X platform. You mentioned Kyle Lowry. What is the best starting lineup when everyone is healthy? Because I feel like that's going to be a much bountied about conversation we have as we progress forward, because we joked about a month ago when Nick Nurse was like, well, Lowry's in the mix to be a starter. We're all like, yeah, okay, whatever, Nick. And it looks like we were all wrong and Nick was right about that, right? But then you look at the rest of the team. It's like, well, do we put Oubre on the bench? Do we put Oubre in the starting lineup? Is Batum the starter in the lineup? Like, what is the ideal lineup for this team when everyone is healthy?
Well, I think you can pencil in 3 guys for sure. Like, it's going to be Tobias, whether people like it or not, because the contract,
right,
because of the different things that he's a master of none, but he's a jack of all, right? And so like those Swiss Army types, if he even qualifies for that common, way of thinking about players, that like he's not only a massive salary, but he can do a bunch of different things at some relatively high level. Joel is, of course, like, what do we know, obviously, and Tyrese, of course. So that leaves 2 spots. I think there would be more of a conversation if you had any kind of certainty about DeAnthony Melton's health. At this point, I think you're probably looking at, if he does come back, it's going to be a coin flip on a night-to-night basis if he's even available, let alone if he can play at the level that they need. And if he can play, like, I just don't think it's feasible or even fair to put him back in the starting lineup. So I think you're looking at, it's going to be Tyrese, it's going to be Kyle, it's going to be Tobias, it's going to be Joel. I truly think that it's a wild card as to whether they go with Batum or Oubre. I think Oubre tends to like it better as a starter, and I think he's played well enough this season with and without Joel to warrant that type of reward to stay in the starting lineup. But at the same time, Batum can really pass the ball. And when they go zone, he makes things look a lot easier, and the brain cramping goes away. The shooting next to Joel is great. The cutting next to Joel is great. On the other hand, I think there's a really reasonable take out there that you could say, well, if you want to get the most out of the team, you would stagger Joe. You send Tyrese to the bench, and you send Kyle to the bench, and then maybe you go to make subs. It's Kelly, it's Nick, it's Joel, it's Campaign, and it's somebody else, and it's Buddy. And you know what? I think that's a really valid point. Maybe your best method of getting the most out of your non-starting lineup is to put Batum on the bench and have him working with guys that can kind of feed off of his passing savviness and the gravity that Joel has. So I think that there are combinations out there that would make a lot of sense. That's on Nurse to juggle and play with as this end of season plays out. But if I had to put money on it right now, which I am not a bettor, but if I did, I would say Tyrese, Kyle, Kelly, Tobias, and Joel are your most likely starters, is what I would say.
Call Morph with Austin Krause before we let him go. Again, Sixers and Heat tonight. Hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Tom McGinnis on the call starting at 7:30. Heat tonight. This is an interesting stretch for these teams, right? It's the Sixers, it's the Heat, it's the Pacers. They're all kind of in that conversation together. And Mike Gill and I were talking about the schedules down the stretch, and he just had me guess what I thought the results would be for the next few weeks. I got to tell you, Austin, we came out with a scenario, not on purpose, where all three teams have the same record at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So, this is probably going to be way closer than a lot of Sixer fans feel. So from your perspective, break down how you see the final games playing out for these three teams that are all kind of bunched together.
If the Sixers win tonight, I think there's a very real chance they win their final, it would be 7 games of the season, because Joel is almost certainly going to have to play all of them. If he doesn't play both back-to-back games, I would say probably the 6 of the final 7 or whatever it is.
By the way, my theory is that they'll lose against the Spurs because Joel won't play that game.
My theory is that they beat the Spurs because Spurs don't have Devin Vassell. Like the Spurs have shut down a lot of their team already. And so at that point, maybe it's like they could lose that game. Sure. Who knows? Maybe it ends up being Memphis. I don't know.
Maybe.
But if the Sixers are going 6-1, 7-0 in that last stretch, like they're a game and a half back of the 6 and 7 seeds now, but that's going to put a bit of pressure on Indiana and Miami to close strong. Indiana already did you a favor, or Brooklyn did you a favor last night, beating Indiana, so that's going to close. And I think, and even if like they do stay into playing, there's a real chance that Miami stays ahead of Indiana, and it's the Sixers Indiana playing. I will take that matchup 100 days or 7 days a week, and be confident in it. There's a chance that Cleveland ends up falling to the 3 seed, and it ends up being, or not Cleveland, Milwaukee ends up falling to the 3 seed, and it ends up being Cleveland Sixers first round. I mean, I can't say I know, with any level of confidence how this final week is going to play out. I do know in Basketball Reference, their projection model thinks the Sixers stay in the play-in. But it depends on how how Indiana, Miami, they view themselves in this tournament. Miami might say, like, we were the 8th seed last season and went to the finals. Do we really, like, if this guy or that guy needs a day off, do we really care about our seeding? All I can say with confidence is if this is not a typical play-in tournament team. If the Sixers do make it out of the play-in, which they should, best of luck to either Milwaukee or Cleveland in the first round. Or, I mean, Boston I would think doesn't fear them that much, but it also is not a great reward for being the 1 seed, is having to play Joel.
Well, it's weird because you mentioned Boston. Like, I get that Boston's the best team in the East, but this is not a deep Boston team. Like, this isn't like a Celtics team from a couple of years ago where like they were like 9, 10, 11 guys deep. You could argue the Sixers today are a deeper team than Boston is. So Boston could be literally a bad foul day away from losing a series. Whereas the other teams, the only thing that bothers me about the Bucks, Austin, and let me know what you think about this. The only thing that bothers me about Milwaukee is not Doc Rivers. It's Giannis and Lillard. It's the fact that Giannis and Lillard could literally just go up to each other and be like, bleep Doc, we're going to go out and win this game ourselves. And they're good enough to do that. That's the only thing that worries me about Milwaukee is that you got two elite players who are good enough to say, who cares what the coach is doing? We're going to do what we want to do.
So I would say this, and I think there's validity to that point. It's a good point. I would say this first and foremost, like Boston is fantastic, right? Like they've blown away every metric. They deserve to be considered the overwhelming favorites in the Eastern Conference.
Sure.
I also think that the way that we view teams like that are overwhelming favorites is like, this is who they're going to be in the 7-game series. And maybe that is in most seasons when you're playing like the Atlanta Hawks in the first round or what have you. But there's a very real difference between you're playing the Detroit Pistons on Monday, you're playing the Brooklyn Nets on Wednesday, you're playing the Lakers on Friday, right? Like those teams, like, you have to wonder if those teams generally care to give the effort on a night-to-night basis, number one. Number two, how closely they're following the scouting report, number two, and their level of urgency, number three. There's a different level of urgency and attention to detail and game planning in the playoffs. And so Boston's blowing teams out of the water right now, and they have all season long. That is true. What I would dispute is that it's going to be that easy for them come playoff time. In a 7-game series, adjustments are made. Minutes are increased. The end of the rotation is shortened. And if Boston, if you are able to keep yourself close with Boston, and it's a close game in the last 5 minutes, I think you are justified in having concerns about whether Drew Holiday, a notorious playoff underperformer, Jason Tatum, who is a questionable decision maker, and Jaylen Brown, who can't dribble the ball, whether those three between them can cobble up enough decision making on offense to not steer themselves into trouble. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a valid criticism. Number two, Milwaukee. Listen, their record before they fired Griffin was very good. They've been 500 since. Their resume is, I think, laughable. Even without Lillard, they've just lost to the Wizards, who have won 12 games all season long. Giannis had 35, 12, and 10 and shot like 15 and 21. They lost the game. They lost to Memphis last night. Doc Rivers is now blaming the equipment staff, and he's blaming he's blaming this person, that person, everyone else but the team. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that he's the only one that not happy with how they're playing right now. They do not look like a team that is ready to go make a big playoff run, unless they're all holding something back. So I think no matter how, and then in Cleveland, it's like the Sixers held them close for 3 games without Joel. So we can say the roster is this or that. We can have our issues. We can have our issues with Joel's playoff pass, and that's justified. At the end of the day, there are very real reasons to believe that they can beat a Milwaukee or a Cleveland in the first round. And if they do, you're not even facing Boston until the conference finals anyway. If you get there, New York just lost Julius Randle today to the rest of the season.
Yep.
There's a window here. There is a window there for them to take this.
There absolutely is a window. And you could argue the road to that window starts tonight versus the Heat. Of course, the game begins 7:30 right here. The coverage on 97.3 ESPN. And Austin Krell will have all the coverage over at 97.3ESPN.com. And Austin says they could lose the Grizzlies game. I say they could lose the Spurs game. So let's just say that one of us will be buying the other a drink this summer. How about that?
I'll Venmo you right now.
You in?
Let's do it.
All right. That's it. You have Grizzlies. I have Spurs. One of us will be wrong. The other one will be about $6 poorer at the end of it. So
there we go.
Austin, great stuff today. Talk to you later.
See you, Josh.
Josh Hennick here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. You know, it's just, you got to have a little fun with it, because my theory is this, okay? And I told Mike Gill this earlier on the Sports Bash today on 97.3 ESPN. My theory is that historically, the second game of a back-to-back, NBA teams lose almost every single time. They almost always lose that game, second game of a back-to-back on the road. It is historically one of the greatest surefire bets in sports history. Road team loses second game. And I can totally see a scenario where the Sixers have Joel play tonight. Joel play Saturday. He doesn't play Sunday. He gets a maintenance day because he's questionable, blah, blah, blah. And it'll be, and the other part of this is that for those of you who have not been watching the Spurs, which frankly, why would I blame you for not watching the Spurs? They're not a very good basketball team. But Victor Wembanyama came out recently and said that he thinks that he should be the defensive player of the year. That's what Wemby came out and said. Let me give you really quick the rundown of what he has done over the last month. Well, not a full month, but the last 11 games since he returned from an injury. Victor Wembanyama is averaging 23.5 points per game, 12 rebounds a game, 5 assists, and almost 4 blocks per game. 4 almost per game. The dude literally almost had a quadruple double the other night. He had 9 blocks 2 nights ago. Wembanyama literally, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, in his last 11 games, he has only had 2 of those 11 games where he has had less than 2 blocks. He has literally gone 2, 2, 3, 7, 6, 3, 1, 5, 1, 3, 9 on the blocks. The dude is trying to single-handedly win 2 awards by the end of the season. He's trying to win just Rookie of the Year, but he's also trying to win Defensive Player of the Year. If Joel Embiid does not play on Sunday, my theory is Wembanyama has a monster game and the Sixers lose. But you got it on record. If the Sixers lose to the Grizzlies but beat the Spurs, Austin was right. If the Sixers beat the Grizzlies and the Spurs they lose, then I'm right. On the record, nobody can disprove it. It is recorded. It is in stone. That is the gambit. Coming up next, your text, 609-403-0970. A lot of text about the Phillies. We'll get to all of them coming up next as we wrap up the Power Hour known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennick hanging out with you on a Thursday night.
It's Sixers Heat tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Oubre bounces to Joel. Joel from 14 straight away. Bucket, it's good. Tie game. 101.
Coverage begins at 7:30. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
Something big is cooking during Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot with the Weber Jumbo Joe Premium Charcoal Grill. We're talking almost 2 feet across big. That's 13 burgers at once big. Right now, get the Weber Jumbo Joe Premium Charcoal Grill for just $99.98 and bring that classic charcoal experience to your cookout. Buy it online and pick it up in-store to get to grilling sooner. Go big during Spring Black Friday with the Weber Jumbo Joe Premium Charcoal Grill, now just $99.98 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m. subject to availability.
Sneezing, coughing, stuffy nose, runny nose, post-nasal drip, interrupted sleeping. I was groggy at the end of the day.
Allergies and sinus congestion were making Jana miserable. Then, a friend recommended Navage. Navage provides immediate drug-free congestion relief, flushing your nasal passages with refreshing saline and sucking out mucus, germs, and other airborne irritants. Navage helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel your best right away.
Navage gave me instant relief. I didn't have to wait 30 minutes. I didn't have to wait an hour, 90 minutes. I didn't have to wait a minute. I ran the rinse and I felt better.
Stop suffering from congestion and start breathing and feeling your best again with Navage. Navage.
I've had people ask me how I find relief, and I tell them Navage immediately. This thing is amazing.
Navage is available at Navage.com or at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid.
2 for $222. 2 for $222. Drive home 2 new Kias at Matt Black Kia for just $222 per month. For the first time, get 2 new Kias for $222 at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can get a brand new 2024 Kia Forte LXS for just $111 per month lease with 0 security deposit and just $39.95 due at signing. With a price like that, why not get 2 for $222? That's a brand new 2024 Kia Forte, 24-month lease for $111 per month, or drive home 2 for $222. Both with Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can't be combined. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KNF. 24 months, $20 per month, 10,000 miles per year. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 4/2/24. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Harbor Township, and on Route 37 in Toms River.
A healthy weight, more energy, and smooth, regular bowel movements. 3 things everyone strives for.
It's me, Chuck Norris. There's one really important thing we don't talk about enough: our health. Achy joints, digestive issues, weight gain, and fatigue. We're told these are normal signs of aging. So working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick.
Morning Kick is a revolutionary formula combining 10 different supplements in one. Probiotics that help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and several of the most powerful anti-aging supplements on earth. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, focused, and help manage stress.
Anybody can achieve great health regardless of their age.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com. Use code SUPPORT or text SUPPORT to 511-511 and claim 40% off today.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee.
Text SUPPORT to 511-511. Morning Kick. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Every day, Cintas service reps help businesses get ready for the workday. They provide freshly laundered workwear delivered every week. Mats, mops, restroom and cleaning supplies, first aid and safety products to help your employees stay safe. They even test and inspect fire extinguishers and emergency lights. Cintas helps keep your business running smoothly. See what Cintas can do for you. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Hey Flyers fans, it's time to level up your game day ritual with the ultimate power duo, the Philadelphia Flyers and Union Forge Vodka. Picture this: the thrill of the game, roar of the crowd, and in your hand, a glass of ultra smooth, 6 times distilled Union Forge perfection. Union Forge is made right here in Philly, so whether you're cheering at the arena or creating your fan zone at home, make it epic with Union Forge Vodka, the official vodka of the Philadelphia Flyers. Cheer on the Flyers with the best tasting vodka produced right here in Philly. Grab a Union Forge bottle today.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All right, back to the text board as promised. A lot of Phillies text to get to at 609-403-0973. Start with Joe in EHT. Says, I'll take Stott and Marsh over the big wasted money by the Phillies. That's from Joe in EHT. Joe, I think that there's a middle ground to that, because first of all, if you're taking Stott and Marsh, you got to add Bowman there. Okay. So that's one part of the conversation. I was so annoyed they didn't play Bohm last night. Do we really think the Phillies are going to lose that game? Like, if Bohm comes up with the bases loaded, does anyone out there listening to the sound of my voice on 97.3 ESPN really believe that they would have lost that game if Bohm was at bat with the bases loaded? Just think about that for a little bit. Now, you mentioned the wasted money. I can't say it's all wasted, because you have gotten incredible production over the years from Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. So it's not all wasted money. If you want to say Castellanos is some wasted money, sure. If you want to say they should have never given JT Realmuto that big contract, I can have a conversation about that. But I don't think Zach Wheeler's wasted money. I don't think Aaron Nola's wasted money. I think the team has been trying to build the best way they know how. And for better or for worse, Dave Dombrowski is an old baseball guy. This is the guy who built the 97 Marlins team that won the World Series. He built the Tigers teams that went to not one, but 2 World Series. He built the Red Sox team that won a World Series. And this is how he builds teams. He builds teams in some unorthodox ways. So this is what you get. You wanted to get rid of Matt Klentak. You want a better GM. This is what you got, Joe in the HT. So I kind of agree, but I don't fully agree with you. But I do appreciate you texting into the show. Anonymous texter chimed in and said, "Hey, Josh, well said, my friend. I've been a fan of the Phillies since 1967. I've been waiting for the Phillies to play hit and run since then. As crazy as it sounds, I love to see the pros play without home runs and manufacture runs instead of swinging for the fence all the time so they don't have to run around." Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Part of the problem with the manufacturing of the runs, Texture, is that a lot of guys don't know how to hit for contact anymore. It's a game of baseball that does not know. A lot of the hitters don't understand what it means to take the ball the other way. They don't understand what it means to work the count consistently. Like, the Phillies do have some good hitters. And you would think in theory that guys, the Merrifields, the Harpers, the Real Mutos, they should be able to do some of that. And they have not consistently done that this year, which is very frustrating. Finally, Phil chimes in on the text board at 609-403-0973. Says, early in the season, you need good pitching because usually the offense starts out slow. The pitching has done their job. I think the offense needs to show up. That's from Phil. Phil's 100% right. The hitting has not shown up yet consistently. And the pitching overall has been fine. It's not like they have gotten blown out in every single game this year. It's not like the only guy who went out there every time and was completely useless was Connor Brogdon. And they DFA'd him as soon as they possibly get away with it, to the point where they brought up Pinto and they begged him to go into the game after he'd only been in the arena for maybe like 30 minutes. I mean, how crazy was that story on Tuesday night? Hopefully, they can go down to Washington and get some wins this weekend. You look at the Phillies schedule going down to Washington. They should win some of those games, right? Aaron Nola Friday, Rangers Suarez Saturday, Christopher Sanchez Sunday. And it's not like the Nats are throwing out some great pitchers. I mean, Corbin has been erratic, but he's a lefty, so probably the lineup will be a little different. Same thing with Cole Irvin. He's a lefty, lineup will be a little different. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But, like was texted in earlier, maybe they can go on a road trip, refocus themselves, kind of get out of the stadium, like Shannon EHC said, and get their minds back on track. Don't forget, Sixers back in action tonight, 7:30. Tom McGinnis with a call here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great night.
Hey, South Jersey, this is Billy Schwein. Tune into the Locker Room every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN. Each weekend in the Locker Room, you will get passionate sports talk from a fan's perspective, along with interviews with some of the biggest names in sports. That's every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon in the Locker Room with me, Billy Schwein, on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, because nothing could be finer than talking sports with a Schweiner.
The good folks at Wendy's have a revolution.